All right, these are your notes for 5.8, slopes of parallel and perpendicular lines. Those are your shortcuts, so you don't have to write out parallel and perpendicular. This one's parallel, and the second one's perpendicular lines. Your essential question is to explain in words how you would find Explain in words how you would write an equation in slope-intercept form that describes a line parallel to y minus 3 equals negative 6 times x minus 3. And by the time we're done, we will solve that problem as well, so you can explain in words how to do it. Alrighty, let's start with our first example. Well, actually, let's go over our rules. First thing, any two lines that are parallel, so parallel lines, they have the same slope, okay, because they go exactly parallel to each other. So they're going to have the same rise and the same run all the way up the line, the same rise, the same run. So parallel lines have the same slope. You want to memorize that one. Parallel lines have the same slope. Perpendicular lines have the opposite slopes. Okay, opposite slopes, and the product of their slopes equals negative 1. So if you were to take the slope of one line and multiply it by the slope of its line that's perpendicular, you would get negative 1. They're also known as opposites. So let me show you how that works real quick. If the slope of, say, this line right here is 3/4, because it's a positive, it goes up 3 over 4. And then you have a line that is perpendicular to it, then the slope of this line would be 4 over 3 and negative. And it's negative because it's opposite. Remember, the opposite of a positive is a negative. And then you also flip it. So if you just think, if you want to make it easier on yourself and you don't have to multiply, to find the slope of a perpendicular line, your first step is to flip the fraction or ratio and then change the sign. If it's positive, make it negative. If it's negative, make it positive. So that's a little shortcut. But the proper rule is that the product of two slopes that are perpendicular equals negative 1. Alright, let's do some examples here. Let me get you some example problems pulled up. Alrighty. Alright, our first problem is number 2. Identify which lines are parallel. So we're going to look at this problem right here. We have y equals 6, y equals 6x plus 5, y equals 6x minus 7, and y equals negative 8. Now, these are 4 different lines. Looking at this problem, there are 4 lines here. And I need to pair them up. 2 of them are parallel, and the other 2 are parallel. So I'm going to pair those up and figure it out. Remember that parallel lines have the same slope. So if you can write them in y equals mxb format, then you can see their slopes. If you look at the first 2 problems, or the middle 2, these are already written in y equals mx plus b. Okay? Their slopes are right there where m is. You have 6 and you have 6. So those 2 lines are parallel. And then y equals 6 and y equals negative 8. Let me pull up a piece of graph paper. Okay, so let's draw our coordinate plane. And it said that y equals 6 and y equals negative 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to count these halfway in between. So if y equals, oh, that's my x-axis. Wrong way. Let's go up the y-axis to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So y equals 6 right there, and then I draw a horizontal line. And then negative 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And there you go. Because it equals 1y, these are horizontal lines, okay? They have a 0 slope because they don't go up and down, but they are parallel. So if you ever have something that just y equals a number, it's always going to be parallel to anything else that's y equals a number, okay? So then that means that this line and this line are parallel, and this line and this line are parallel. Alrighty, let's try number 3. Again, it has 4 lines. Every semicolon separates the lines. So the first one's written in y equals mx plus b. The next one is just y equals. This one's written in point slope form, and this one's written in point slope form. So first thing we need to do is get everything in y equals mx plus b format. Okay, so we're going to look at the first one. Alright, so we're going to start with y minus 4 equals negative 2 times x plus 2. I'm going to take that problem. Just a white background here. Y minus, okay, so we're going to use distributive property, and we'll get y minus 4 equals negative 2x minus 4. Then we're going to add 4 to both sides so we can get y by itself. So we get y equals a negative 2x, and negative 4 plus 4 cancel out. So there we are. So now we have this as a line. We're looking for parallel lines, so they need the same slope. So this one has a slope of negative 2. So we go back to our problem, and we see that the other line here, this one had a slope of negative 2, and this one has a slope of negative 2. In fact, they're exactly the same line because they're both negative 2x. So then that means that the other two are parallel with each other. Okay? If you don't have to solve any other problems, don't. Start with the easy ones. I started with the last problem first because it didn't have any fractions in it. Alrighty. Let's skip over number 4 for now. We're going to go to number 5. Identify which lines are perpendicular. So remember, perpendicular, they have opposite slopes. Okay? So we're going to start with number 5. And let's just look at their slopes. We have it in y equals mx plus b format. So let's use that. There it is. This one says 2/3. This one says negative 3/2. So these are opposites, so those two lines are perpendicular. Okay? And y equals negative 1, remember if it's just y equals, it's a horizontal line. If it's just x equals, it's a vertical line. So they're automatically perpendicular because one is vertical and one's horizontal. So these two are perpendicular. Let's look at the next problem. Again, it has 4 lines, and one of them's in y equals mx plus b, the other 3 are not. So I'm going to start with the easy one that does not have a fraction in it. I'm going to look at this problem right here. Y minus 4 equals negative 7 times x plus 2. Alright, so we have y minus 4 equals negative 7 times x plus 2. Remember, it didn't matter which equation you put into y equals mx plus b form first. Just pick the one that's easiest. This one doesn't have any fractions. So we're going to use distributive property. Do y minus 4 equals negative 7 times x. And then this is going to be a negative because we have negative 7 times 2, so that'll be a negative 14. Then we're going to add 4 to both sides. And we have y equals negative 7x. Negative 14 plus 4 is going to be a negative 10. So now this is in y equals mx plus b format, and there's our m right here. And remember, that's actually over 1, so that means it's going to go down 7, right 1, down 7, right 1. So let's go back and look and see if there's one that has 1 over 7. And we find there isn't one in the top row, but there is one in the second row. Right there. So it's a 1, 7, and it's positive. So these two are perpendicular because they have opposite slopes. 1 over 7 is the opposite of negative 7 over 1. The numbers are flipped, the signs are different. So that means the other two are perpendicular. All right, let's try number 8, a word problem. Right here, number 8. Write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line that passes through 5, 0 and is perpendicular to this line. Okay, so it's perpendicular to this, so we already know that the slope, negative 5, 2, is going to flip and become 2 over 5, and it's going to be positive. And then it's going to go through this point. Okay, so I have 5, 0. So I'm going to use this graph over here really quick. That means it's going to go through this point right here. That's its x-intercept, not its y-intercept. So we need to find the y-intercept. Well, we've got its slope right here, and we have a point. So we should use the point-slope form. Okay, so my point is 5, 0. My point is 5, 0, and equals a point. It doesn't equal anything yet. And then I've got my slope equals 2/5. Okay? So now I'm going to use my point slope, y minus y1, 0, equals m times x minus x1. Okay? And you have y equals 2/5 times x, 2/5 times a negative 5. Plug that into your calculator. Don't try to do it by hand. And then you get negative, because the 5 is negative, 2 over 1, which simplifies to just 2, so I'm going to erase that off the bottom. And that's all you've got. Now it's y equals mx plus b. So that's the equation of the line in slope-intercept form. You stop right there. The slope is the opposite, and we have an y-intercept. So now we're done.